That's another week out of the way. It's time to get some caffeine in us and talk about some books. It's time for a weekly recap. Hey everyone, I hope you've had a really good week and that you've been reading some great books. This is, and I know you're not going to believe me when I tell you this is the last video I'm ever going to make in my 30s. So that is pretty mad to say. In a few days, I'll no longer be, a little young kid, a little whippersnapper, just wide-eyed and discovering the world. I'm going to be a full-grown adult. That is the legal age in which you are considered an adult, 40. So, basically what I'm saying is, you lot need to start taking me seriously. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what I'm currently reading, what I recently finished reading, and what I'm looking forward to reading. I'll tell you about some of the book battles that we've had on the Discord and how they played out. And also, I'm going to be talking about what I've been watching, both on TV and also a movie that I watched. Pretty good movie. And then we'll update the top 10 list of 2025 to see if anything that I've watched this week makes it onto the list. But let's start by talking about what I'm currently reading. And the first book we're going to talk about is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. So this is the book that the PBJ Book Club chose to read along together this month. I'm about 2/3 of the way through. And honestly, what started off as a fun little piece of nostalgia has become, unfortunately, in my opinion, not in the opinion of everyone in the book club, but in my opinion, a little bit tedious. A little bit baggy in the middle. At first, I was really enjoying the kind of like upbeat 1980s pop culture atmosphere. I think it gave the story a fun, nostalgic vibe, but that has kind of faded away now in this section of the book. The characters, in my opinion, aren't really that interesting. And for a horror book, there's not very much horror. It's mostly about the dynamics of a group of teen girls who are kind of, making friends, breaking up, then making friends again. That's one thing that's sort of bugging me a little bit about the book is the reshuffling of friendships. I do get that this is all about high school anxiety and how friendships can be complicated, but it feels like there's just too many steps that are involved because, like I said, first they're enemies and then they're friends and then one gets kicked out and then that one gets brought back in and then the other one gets kicked out. And it's sort of like, well, girls, I don't really care. I don't care really. I don't care beyond the two main characters. I don't care about all this other stuff. Abby, the main character, is also starting to get on my nerves a little bit. She's kind of whiny. And so far that there just hasn't been anything that's really surprised me or caught me off guard. There are a couple of funny moments in there still. There's still enough moments to sort of keep me interested. There was one moment in particular, obviously I'm not going to say, I'm not going to give any spoilers or anything, but there was one moment in particular that did feel like a horror book or, felt like really it could be like a scene in a horror movie. And I like that. Gave me a little chill. I went, oof, yeah, but I just need more of that, more, ugh. So, I suppose what I'm hoping for, the book can still be saved, by the way. It's not like I'm done with the book or I think it's a bad book or anything like that. I like the beginning. I thought the middle was meh, but if the ending's good, it's still a good book. And hopefully Grady Hendrix sticks the landing. But here's what I need from the book. I need either to go back to the funny stuff and kind of be this like satirical, cheesy 1980s nostalgia thing, or I need it to be a horror. But it needs to be one or the other. It can't just be like, the teen drama. Also, I've been reading East of Eden. Here's the thing, though. I've only read a little bit of East of Eden and not much more than when I spoke to you last week. I've actually been reading another book. So I'll save talking about this book until next week. when I'll be 40 years old. Yeah, let's talk about this. I'll talk about this when I'm 40. Life begins at 40, you know. Life begins at 40. That's what they say. Life begins at 40. I'm going to have a full-blown midlife crisis. All right, let's talk about Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and that is what I've been. This is what I did finish this week. This is the book that I finished this week. This is probably the most famous book that I've ever gone into knowing absolutely nothing about it. Like, do you know what I mean? Most of the time, when I pick up a really well-known book, I kind of have a gist of what it's about. I might even know some of the major scenes or the characters. Sometimes I even know the ending, just because it's just so well-known. It's just kind of in the ether. Everyone knows this book, you know? Anyway, I truly knew nothing about this book going into it, and I'm happy to say I really liked it. One thing that I think I enjoyed most about this was the atmosphere. I actually picked it up thinking it was a horror novel. And so, yeah, that was a mistake. It's not a horror novel. It's more of a Gothic mystery romance, I guess you'd call it. It's haunting and immersive, pretty much from the very beginning of the book to the very end. The story's told from the perspective of an unnamed narrator who is working as a kind of maid or companion for a woman in Monte Carlo when she meets Max de Winter. Max is a recently widowed man, and they kind of have this whirlwind romance. And then all of a sudden, he proposes. It all happens really fast, and it turns out he's this really wealthy guy. He owns this famous home in England. I suppose it would be the equivalent to something like the Biltmore in the US. Just this really beautiful, well-known, stately home. And at first, you know, it seems like she's hit the jackpot, you know? But once she arrives, she discovers that the house doesn't really feel very homely at all. The echoes of Rebecca, which is Maxime's ex-wife, are still sort of bouncing off the walls. One thing that I related to was that feeling of arriving in a place where everyone seems to know each other and you are the outsider. And I think that's a situation that most people will have found themselves in at some point in their lives, whether they're starting a new job or meeting the in-laws, and everyone is not being mean exactly, but you can tell they're trying to figure you out. They're trying to measure you, and you're trying to match their rhythm, but everything feels a little bit awkward and out of step, you know? And that sense of being quietly judged, of not belonging, you know? And I think that's captured really well in this book. I felt that anxiety just on every page. And she's always trying to, am I being too much? Am I not being enough? Should I get involved with this joke? I don't know, you know? That was just an ever-present anxiety. Another thing about this book, even though it was written a long time ago, it was written in the 1930s, it didn't feel like it. Sometimes with older books, they can feel like maybe the prose is overly flowery, or the ideas are a bit inaccessible, or the pacing is a bit strange to a modern reader. But this felt like it really could have been written in the last 20 years. The prose is beautiful, but also somehow like easy to digest. I liked it a lot, and I do think it's a contender for the book of the month. We'll have to see how May wraps up. We've still got a couple of weeks left of May, so yeah, and I'm reading East of Eden, right? So it's going to be tough. What I always like to do when I finish a book is give it like a little song equivalent or a little soundtrack to the book. And so for Rebecca, I think I have the perfect song, and that is The Other Woman by Lana Del Rey. I think when Lana sings, there's something ghostly about it anyway. I don't know how she does it, but it just, whenever I hear a Lana Del Rey song, it seems like she's performing in an abandoned, haunted ballroom. I think this song really captures that sort of sadness and also the comparison with herself and a woman that she'll never meet and maybe will never be able to live up to. So yeah, as I mentioned, coming up next, I'm going to be reading East of Eden. I hope that I'll be able to finish that next week. I've actually got a few days off for my birthday, just taking a few days off, and also like you've got the public holiday coming up as well, so I've kind of like folded them both in, so I should be able to get a decent amount of reading done. I might even pick up the next book in the Wayward Pines trilogy as well, because I enjoyed the first one so much that I read last week. So yeah, I might do that. I might pick up Wayward. All right, so let's talk about what I've been watching. What did I watch this week? I saw a great movie, and it's called Warfare. It came out just last month, and it was directed by Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland. It's about a Navy SEAL platoon on a surveillance mission in Iraq where everything goes wrong, and it turns from a simple operation into really a fight for survival deep in enemy territory. The first thing I can say is that although this is obviously a war movie, it didn't really feel like a war movie at times. It's sort of like hard to define, but I suppose it just felt more like a story about a group of people who happen to be soldiers, and they're all trying to survive in these incredibly claustrophobic conditions in such a dangerous territory. It's like, yeah, how do I describe this? Even though this is based on a true story, we're not actually given very much context on for what the mission was about or what's happening outside of the walls that they're all sort of like huddled inside of, the kind of little base camp that they've got together. They're all stuck inside this house while it's just being bombarded, and it's really terrifying. One thing that the movie did really well was take its time in introducing each of the characters and the relationships between them. It definitely doesn't glorify them as these big tough Navy SEAL guys. I think really reveals them for what they are beneath that. And that is a group of young guys with inside jokes and shared history. And that sort of like seeing them as human, as vulnerable humans, it made what happens later much more impactful. But there's no pro-US military message. There's also no anti-US military message either. It's not trying to push any kind of a message. It is really just about these people and being able for an hour and a half to imagine yourself being in their shoes. I should say that, obviously I've never served in a military, so I can't speak to, oh, this is realistic or this isn't realistic. But I tell you what, when I was watching it, it felt real. How terrifying it must be. Also, the cinematography brings you uncomfortably close to some pretty grim stuff. And also the sound design, I felt really heightened the intensity of it. There's moments in this film where the sound just cuts off completely when one of the soldiers loses his hearing, sort of temporarily loses his hearing. As he's sort of making his way around this battlefield, what has become a battlefield, and watching the kind of violence in total silence made it even scarier, the idea of running through this house of horrors while just having one of your senses disappear. I mean, that really got to me. I was just wide-eyed in that scene. Oh, I was really impressed with this film. And I see, after I watched it, I was like, yeah, I get it. I get why everyone's making such a big fuss over this film because, yeah, it was impressive. But it's also the kind of movie where I think you should watch it if you like that kind of movie, but also probably you only want to watch it once. It's not the kind of thing where you go, oh yeah, I'll watch it every year. It's not that kind of film. Right, so I'm going to talk about The Last of Us TV show. Now, my opinion to yours might be different. I know that there's been a lot of arguments that have been happening online, I just want you to know that if you disagree with me about this show, fuck you. No, I'm joking. The opposite. The opposite. If you disagree with me on this show, we can definitely still be friends. It's okay. We can disagree. It's actually fun to disagree sometimes. I should mention that I'm one of these people that did play the game, and The Last of Us Part 2 is the game is one of my favorite pieces of media of all time. Like, I'm not just saying one of my favorite games. I mean, any form of storytelling, like even music, movies, books, anything. So I think I went into this show with maybe some unfair and unrealistic expectations. It's good. I'm not in the camp of people saying, "Oh, this is trash," "I'm done with the show, I hate it." Not at all. But I do think that there have been so many changes from the game to the show that I just can't think of it as the same story exactly as the game. Or maybe it's kind of like the same story, but featuring some different characters. Like, I don't think that the characters of the game really feel the same as the characters from the show. This season, anyway. I feel like Bella Ramsey has been getting a lot of hate, and that's not good. I think Bella is actually doing a good job. And they were cast really well. But the writing, it feels strange. I'm not going to spoil anything, but in the original story, something major happens, right? I'll just say that. Something major happens. And it transforms Ellie. And in the show, it feels like she is completely unaffected by it. And that, to me, is bizarre. Like, she didn't change as a character from season 1 to season 2, even though this big event happened. And I honestly can't fathom what the writers are really thinking. I don't know if they're trying to make Ellie more of like a relatable, fun, kind of goofball character, like the comic relief in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. But in the game, she is carrying this incredible weight on her shoulders. And you can tell that at every moment, it's just haunting her. It's in the back of her mind. Yeah, so she's been really changed. She started off as that. She started off as this kind of like, hey, cracking jokes. She collects comic books and stuff, and even in an apocalypse, she collects these little comics that she finds. Yeah, she is funny. She is funny in the first game, and in the first season she was funny. But yeah, in the second game, she's kind of much more serious, and she's like, I'm all about business. Yeah, but now in the second season of this show, I don't know, she just kind of feels like Chandler from Friends. She's just cracking all these little one-liners, like, weird. And again, I don't blame Bella Ramsey for that at all. I actually feel bad because Bella was genuinely great in season 1, and I did like season 1. I loved. Listen, episode 3 of season 1 was one of my favorite episodes of television ever. I was like, it's amazing, But yeah, just I think it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Like, they took a 10 out of 10, one of the best entertainment experiences of my life. And then from that, they were able to create like a 7 out of 10 show. Like, it's fine. Now, here's the question. Did Warfare, the movie that I watched this month, make it onto my top 10 list in 2025? Let's take a look at the list as it currently stands. And as you can see here, in the number 10 spot, barely hanging on, we've got Black Bag, then Companion, Heretic, Severance, A Real Pain, Anora, White Lotus, Conclave, Sinners, and the best thing that I've watched so far this year is Adolescence. And so what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to add The Last of Us to this list or even consider it for the list until I've actually finished the whole series, right? So because it's not fair. It might, the next few episodes might be absolutely mind-blowing, and then it gets really high on the list. But Yeah, so we're not going to do that. But does Warfare make it onto the top 10 of 2025? Yes, definitely. And so here is the updated top 10 list. And now, as you can see, Warfare is sitting in the number 5 spot. If you want to see how this list progresses as we move into coming up to the second half of 2025, and if these shows and if these movies survive for the rest of the year, then make sure you subscribe. Anyway, we had some book battles on the Discord. So what did we have this week? We had Wayward Pines versus Silo. The Silo trilogy, and the winner of that battle was Wayward Pines with 53%, very close. Then we had Dan Brown versus Michael Crichton in a bit of an author battle. And the winner of that was Michael Crichton with 70%. And then we had Caliban versus Puck, a little bit of a Shakespearean mystical character battle. And the winner of that was Puck with 77%. Absolutely bashed up Caliban. Well done, Puck. Book battles are one of the games that we have over on the Discord. So if you'd like to join in that community, maybe suggest some book battles that you'd like to see, or just talk about what you've been reading recently and keep us up to date, then you can find that link in the description below. And so I'm about to ask you the big question of the week. But before I do that, I just want to thank all of the Patreon members that support the channel. A big thank you to the cult members. A massive thank you to the named men, and an extra special thank you to the quartet. In every video, I like to give a member of the quartet a random compliment. And so today, I'd like to tell Moise Kovac that, Moise, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Moise, come over here. I've got to tell you something. I was thinking about you the other day, and I just wanted to say that I've really noticed you're a great listener. Like, you don't force advice or try and spin everything into a positive. You just get it. You don't listen in a way that feels false. When you listen, it feels real, like I'm being heard. And when you do speak, well, it's actually thoughtful. It's not performative or for show. I don't know if you realize how rare that is, Moise, or how much it means when everything just feels like the world's going crazy. I guess I just wanted you to know that what you do, just by being you, really makes a difference, even if you don't always see it. If you'd like to support the channel and receive some perks like the Metallic Paperback Journeys bookmark, access to some of the exclusive rooms on the Discord server, and also access to the PBJ Book Club, then you can click on the link in the description below. And so here's the big question of the week that I would be really interested. This is going to be, I think, a bit of fun. The question of the week that I have for all of you is, if your bookshelf sort of came to life, like in Toy Story, right? When you walk out of the room and all the books start coming to life, which book do you think would quickly become the leader? And how would they take charge of the other books? Thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And as always, happy reading. I'll see you when I'm 40.